This is my testimony. Many years ago, well, I'm in my 40s now, believe it or not, I've always had a belief in God. I had a sort of pseudo prayer that I would do every night since about 1988, but it was more like a wish list. I didn't serve the Lord, I didn't know who He was, I didn't understand anything, I was very naive about it. I just knew there was something there. Whilst leading a life that was not in keeping with being with the Lord. I believe that I always had an interest in the paranormal, researched about ghosts over maybe 30 years, UFOs. I read a lot of text and books and such like before the internet was a thing. Cryptozoology and all these sorts of things. So I had an understanding of there was a supernatural, there was something. I always had believed in my heart that there was something more, but in my twisted reality, I always thought, yeah, I'm going to be a film star or I'm going to be a pop, a rock star or something like that. That was where my head was, or I was, I was training to be a stockbroker, so that was a career path, and I believe a lot of that financial institutes are under the control of Mammon. But I didn't think about that then. I was interested in the new age. I practiced some new age things to a point in sort of later life. I liked to read about Aleister Crowley. I got books of spells, but thankfully I never actually did any. My grandmother actually had a Ouija board. I always remember it was in a cupboard, and I always had said to her, when she passes on, that I would like that Ouija board. I was just drawn to evil. I don't know why. I've got a rough idea of why. When I was a kid, I was a thief. I was quite a good thief. I could take things in front of people's eyes and such like. Um, I had I had murderous thoughts as a child, and I don't know where they came from. My mother was into she could read tarot cards without ever learning and such like. In later life, she'd been at a spiritual church, and my mum had said she'd saw ghosts, for lack of a better description. So it's very possible that doors were opened in my family, and that's where these entities came in. But it was all on me. I mean, it was me that was. Maybe the thoughts were being put in my head, but it was me that was manifesting it more than anything else. I grew up. I became very racist. I was fascinated by the Nazis. Not by the side. I'm from Britain. I'm from Scotland. The Nazis just fascinated me. The style, just the evil. I was fascinated by crime. I fantasised about robbing banks and all these sorts of things. I had an unhealthy infatuation with guns and knives. When I was about 14, I was going to buy a blank fire gun, you know what I mean, and go and hold up a shop or something like that. It was a fantasy, but very real, close to doing these things. I was fascinated by the occult. I read a lot of occultic literature. I was fascinated by serial killers. I read so much about serial killers, and it didn't turn my stomach. Um, I was I liked war. I liked when I was a lot younger. I liked the fighter jets and all that, like a lot of kids do. The Airfix models and that sort of thing. But I was fascinated by war. I loved reading about it and politics and all these sorts of things. Um, I had girlfriends, but I was more driven by lust. I realised that after I came to the Lord, that it was just lust, which I thought was a form of lust, love, but it wasn't just to one woman, it was to many. I got about, shall we say. Um, I was, as I say, with the racism, I used to spit fire at certain races. I was very heavy on, I was very anti Islam, Muslim. I blamed the Jewish people for a lot of things. Um, I wanted to wipe them out. No, I wasn't a white supremacist. I wanted the white great swathe of the white population. I was just twisted. Sometimes when I heard things about certain races, I would spit fire and all these sorts of things, and it was like I knew that there was something in me. I knew that there was several things in me, and I kind of revelled in it because I actually thought I was psychotic. Um, the drink and the drugs, which I took for many, many, many years, drink more than most people have in their lifetime. I wasted a lot of time drinking and taking a lot of drugs, from everything from LSD to cocaine to heroin. Um, the Largactyl, just things that people hadn't even heard of, like that are given to patients and stuff like that. Anything. I was the type of person that would take something and ask what it was afterwards. I thought that would find me happiness. I was into the '60s music, and I was into dance music when the ecstasy scene was there and all that, but I didn't. I had an epiphany, I thought, and I went to the '60s and '70s and even further behind, than that, and some of the '80s, and I started reading about all these, these anti-heroes, I suppose, the Keith Moons, the Keith Richards, the Stones, the Beatles, and I was a fantasist, so I started thinking about these people and trying to live like them. That's a form of idolatry. Um, I was just very prideful in my appearance because I had a degrees of success with very attractive women. It just went to my head, and I was very, very narcissistic. I still struggle with that from time to time, even though I'm not like that anymore. But it's just sometimes that comes back. As I say, I thought I was psychotic. I had hear voices in my head. I would be sitting talking to in a workplace or something like that, and the voice would say, "Just stand up and kick their teeth out," for no reason. They hadn't done anything. Sometimes the voices, I would hear it on the bus. I think it had a lot to do with the drinking drugs as well. But I just remember sometimes it was just like really, really anger in certain situations, a lot of impatience towards them people. Feelings of wanting to really hurt them, like envisaging really hurting them, not just punching them, like really like tearing them apart or something like that. If something went wrong, sort of in later life, maybe in the last sort of 10 to 12 years, when I was a child, it would just say, run away, run away. But as I got a bit older, it was just like something went wrong in my life, just go kill yourself. That'll teach them, just very audible voice. And what you learn is as well, eventually, you've got the good voice, which is a lord, and that's a very silent, soft-spoken voice, and you've got the other voice that's very loud, suggesting that you do X, Y, and Z. As I said, I had sort of murderous intent in my heart. I would fantasise about hurting people and killing people ultimately. And this kind of pseudo-Nazi thought process. I was very angry at certain situations. I had no patience, as I said. I was very influenced by the music that I was listening to, as I said. It kind of drove me walking about, thinking that I was a Keith Moon sort of character, and films influenced me to act a certain way, like Wall Street influenced me when I was a kid to become a stockbroker. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was one of my favourite films for many, many years. I really liked reading about that, and just I was very liberal, but at the same time I was right wing viewed, but I was very liberal at the same time, so I was a very mixed up kid and adult and whatever. But I idolised all these rock stars and stuff, and that's how I lived my life, taking the drink and the drugs and chasing the women, and I wasn't very good at writing music, but I could sing. But I never pursued it anywhere. I just never got round to it. And then basically, a failed business venture about 5 years ago led me. I'd had to get a laptop. I had to get a laptop, and obviously the laptop was just sitting there, and eventually I started going online and looking at YouTube, and I was finding videos to do with ghosts and truth. I even listened to David Icke, who I wouldn't have listened to previously, because I remember when David Icke came on and he said he was the son of God in 1991. David Icke has some truth. But what always stood out in my head was that he said that Jesus was a blood cult. But I was still in that mindset that I didn't think Jesus. I'll be honest, I thought Jesus was a charlatan, because it tied in with the Jewish hatred that I had and such like. Forgive me, Lord. But also, I was beginning to find out about things like Planet X, and I'll put a link of a channel that can show you these planetary things are coming inbound. That's not fake. I was finding out about UFOs being, people were saying that they're demonic, and I came across things like Jacques Vallée and Allen Hynek, who were the godfathers of ufology, you would say. Basically came to the conclusion as skeptics that they came to the conclusion this thing is real and they're demonic in nature. You're just looking at Aleister, and I knew about Aleister Crowley, I read about him, but I think I probably came across Lem. But if you actually look at a picture of Lem, Aleister Crowley's guide, it's a grey alien. But all this, and I'd really, before I'd went on the internet, I was really starting to do some deep research into the UFO stuff, that none of these experiences are really positive. And that these things have got the bases and they're in control of the governments and all these sorts of things, and they're underground and they're ultimately planning to take over this planet. And I always had that in the back of my head. Little did I know actually what these entities actually are. With regards to that, I was looking at all these videos, and then ultimately I came to the conclusion that I had to sort myself out. I had to come to the Lord. I had to do something. But I was so naive that I actually thought that, Jesus, or Yeshua, as I've come to know him, Yeshua died on Christmas Day. He was born on Christmas Day, which he wasn't, but he was born on Christmas Day and he died at Easter. That was about the extent of what I knew. There's very little. I hadn't read the Bible. I mean, I remember the few Christians that I ever met before I came to the Lord, they smelt funny to me and I didn't want to get near them. I couldn't read the Bible. It was just, even if I picked it up. I always kept a small Bible that I got in first year, a Gideon's Bible, but I couldn't read it. It just was gibberish to me. So during this time when I was finding all this out, I hadn't came to the Lord yet, but I found a character called Lord Real. And it turns out it's Knights Templar and all that, but it was very convincing. There's a video online that was really convinced me that this guy was the real deal, having no clue about the scripture. And I reached out to these people. They'll call themselves ecumenical, something like Lord Real or something like that. And I reached out to one and he responded to me and he was saying, what you need to do is repent. I was like, what's repent? I had no idea what repent meant. So anyway, during this time, I realised that these Lord Real was just nonsense. And I remember, tail end of 2014, I think it was November, I went down on my knees and I just asked the Lord to forgive me. I rhymed off all these things that I had done, many things, and I came away and that was it, and nothing actually happened. But during that next day or something like that, there was so many thoughts. You did this, and this. I had to go back and do it again. Not the same stuff, different stuff. And I repented of all this and I confessed it and asked for the Lord to come into my heart and forgive me. And I wanted to change. And the second time I did it, I can't remember, I just kind of went away and I was putting music on to listen to do my housework, believe it or not. And I'm still maintaining that the first song that had come on was I Am the Resurrection by the Stone Roses. But the second song that came on was My Sweet Lord by George Harrison. Now, I know about these bands now, I don't listen to anything or anything like that now. But when I heard My Sweet Lord, I started crying. And that's one thing that I couldn't do before I came to the Lord for years. Even at my father's funeral and stuff, I couldn't cry unless I got exceptionally drunk and forced it. I always thought of the Heart of Stone. I always thought it was a cold-hearted killer, quite frankly. But when I started crying, I couldn't stop, and weeping and weeping and weeping. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Having no clue. But within about that hour or so, these feelings of hatred, the Nazism, the occult, all the fascination with all these things, the murderers, the war, all these sorts of things all just disappeared. My heart literally changed. I became a totally different person from that day on. And if that was what the Holy Spirit was, that was what it was. I believe it was now when I'm a bit more well versed in the Bible. I all of a sudden got a thirst to hear the word, to read the word. I stopped watching a lot of television and I was watching more people teaching the word and all the things to do with CERN and all these sorts of things, which I believe is trying to rip the veil open, which it talks about in Revelation. It was wonderful. I had a question about dinosaurs, and obviously it was just a learning process. I really had no clue about anything. I was just trying to find all this information. I couldn't get my head around dinosaurs and creation and the ark and all those sort of things. And I asked that question internally, and within about a day, there was a programme on a channel that I discovered, Revelation TV, which helped me a great deal. They're not perfect, but they helped me a great deal. And it answered that question. I had experienced a couple of supernatural healings as well. I don't get a lot of them. It's not something I can do. I don't have that gift or whatever. But I had a recurring nightmare from when I was a child, probably, where I would go near an attic or a cupboard, and there was some great evil. It was a very scary experience. It happened on and off, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, whatever. I always maintained that whatever was in the attic or in the cupboard was in me, was part of me. I got that in my head. And if I ever looked at it, it was kind of game over or something, you know. But I never looked at it. But after I came to the Lord and I repented, I had that dream. And then, and going towards the cupboard, as I usually did in these dreams, all of a sudden, a voice said in my head, it was one voice, but it said, say Jesus, Jesus. Boom. The attic was in a cupboard, but it had turned into such a small attic that I couldn't have possibly went up if I wanted to. And there was a light. And in the dream, I was more interested in finding a light switch to save electricity. And I've never had any more dreams. And that was very, very telling for me. I've had another couple of dreams where I didn't even realise there was a little entity in front of me, and I just recently learned that Jesus' Hebrew name is Yeshua, and that's what I was using. And this little thing was coming towards me, and I didn't sense any danger, but all of a sudden the voice said, say Yeshua, and this thing turned away and walked away. And it was only when I woke up later on that I thought the significance of that was something. I've had a dream when I asked about, not so long ago, about the rapture. Now, some scripture suggest it's something that's going to happen. I hope it is, because I don't really want to be here to see the destruction that's coming upon this earth. It's absolute. I mean, it's not just the world war. I believe that these aliens are going to come down. So-called aliens are demonic entities, and that's going to be a massive deception. I think the Antichrist will be some sort of fake messiah, because I don't believe that there's one man that's going to unite the people. It seems to me impossible. You can't get one man that's going to unite all the people. It's just too divided. Plus it'll be God's hand will be off the whole situation, so evil will pervade men's hearts, go cold and all that. I just know in my heart that God was real. There was just more and more that was happening, that was convincing me that I was learning the word, I was reading the word, and I realised I had to get baptised. Now, I've never went to a church. I've never not been in a church, but I decided not to go to church. And I'm pretty well self-taught to a point, a lot of it. I listen to people and reading it myself and all these sorts of things. So I knew I had to get baptised. So as a sort of, to exercise the old hatred of Israel, I really hated Israel and all the rest of it, and I knew that was wrong. from reading the scripture, because we are grafted in to Israel, but not Israel, the country as such, as the tribes of Israel. But anyway, so my mother had some money, so I got a trip to Israel 6 months after I'd repented. Excuse me. And I got baptised in the Jordan River. And I had some sort of feeling in my body that was more and more, I don't know, I've already had the Holy Spirit, but I wasn't quite living there. I was still taking drugs, and I was still drinking, not excessively. There was a couple of times where I was chasing women as well. But over the last couple of years, I have totally changed. I'm not like that completely. I've given up. I gave up the drink and the drugs completely in 2016. Alcohol was probably the bane of my life. I lost jobs and friendships and all the rest of it through alcohol, but I didn't learn. I fast. It's because Jesus said, when you fast, not if you fast. So I fast 24 hours from food a couple of times a month, and I feel that really brings me closer to the Lord. I do communion. I'm just sitting in my house to acknowledge the sacrifice that Yeshua is God, Jesus is God, and that he came down as the Son of Man, but fully God, and he lived among the people, like the blind see, the deaf hear, the mute talk, he cast down demons, as the scripture says, because everything, the word of God is true. When you start to really dig into it, and you can find the archaeological evidence, like Ron Wyatt finding the Ark and all these sorts of things, people say, yeah, go and look. It's out there. Go and try to disprove it. That's the greatest thing you could ever try, and it may open your eyes. But the Lord, he came to this earth and suffered. So all through the Old Testament with the blood on the lintel and, the sacrifices, that was all pointing to the Messiah. All through this, the Old Testament. It's not just the New Testament. And Isaiah and all that, by his stripes we are healed, and it's amazing. I have a new peace in my life. I can't recommend it highly enough, because it is your salvation, and we are very near the end. We are very close. I've been warning people for the last couple of years about a potential war. There's trouble with China and the South China Sea. Obviously everybody knows about Ukraine, but they're still moving masses of troops and hardware to these places. There's bombing in Somalia, and obviously Syria is another target, as it says in scripture. Damascus will be a ruinous heap, Damascus. Obviously Venezuela's in play. There's trouble all over the planet. I have a financial background, so I know what I'm looking at. When I realised that the debt was never taken care of in 2008, and we're talking about quadrillions of debt that can never be paid, but eventually that will be called in, and governments and institutions will fall. And when it talks about in Revelation about a loaf of bread is a denarius, and a denarius is a full day's wage, so you're looking at what, $10, £10, whatever you equate to in your currency, wherever you are. It's just to prepare spiritually for what's coming. I thank you.